on Kiev.
Absolutely. Just at the same time as we're seeing developments in the Crimea, we're also seeing developments when it comes to the economic angle of the Ukrainian crisis. Ukraine's currency has been rebounding, trading up around 10% against both the dollar and the euro this Friday. It comes after Ukraine's central bank took action to stop the fall of the hryvnia. Measures include caps on currency transactions to prevent a bank run. Ukrainians will only be allowed to withdraw around €1,000 a day per person as well. Ukraine's leaders, they're trying to put up a united front to calm jitters about the Ukrainian economy. Ukraine's Prime Minister and the central bank governor said earlier there are enough reserves to pay off creditors in the short term. They're also optimistic the country will be able to live up to the conditions to receive outside help soon.
I've talked to the finance minister of the United States. I've talked to the heads of the international financial organizations, with the heads of the European Union. Our finance ministry is working on a mechanism for quickly receiving financial aid for Ukraine.
Meanwhile, Switzerland, Austria and Liechtenstein are freezing assets belonging to the ousted President Viktor Yanukovych and his entourage. Switzerland says it wants to block any unauthorized use of Ukrainian state assets. It follows accusations from Ukraine's new leaders that billions had gone missing while Yanukovych was in power. It's unclear how much money may be affected by these asset freezes. Speaking in Russia earlier, Yanukovych himself denies having foreign bank accounts at all. Now, it was once the largest exchange for the virtual currency Bitcoin. Now, Japan-based Mt. Gox has filed for bankruptcy protection. It follows days of speculation after the website of the exchange went dark earlier this week. Mt. Gox now says it may have lost nearly $500 million worth of Bitcoins due to hacking. The theft has sparked some to foresee the downfall of Bitcoin, but others say it'll make it stronger. Delana D'Souza has more.
Bowing for forgiveness, a humbled CEO says hackers stole 850,000 bitcoins from Mt. Gox. They're worth around $500 million. The theft, together with debts to the tune of $63 million, pushed the company towards bankruptcy.
We had a problem with a system that does a lot to our beacons to our customers. And we identified the problem. We are working on this.
Bitcoin has made a name for itself as the world's fastest growing currency, but it remains unregulated. And it's because of this, legal experts say, investors are unlikely to see their money again. Japan's finance ministry has shrugged responsibility.
No one recognizes it as a currency. So for something that isn't recognized as a currency, is it the finance department's responsibility?
The value of Bitcoin has fallen since the news of Mt. Gox's troubles first broke. Some say the bankruptcy could lead to the downfall of Bitcoin, while others feel lawsuits from investors could help define the currency. At the very least, it may help strengthen regulation.
It's a good news for the Bitcoin industry in the very long run, because when you weed out the bad competitors, it actually gives a lot of opportunity for good exchanges.
While the fall of Mt. Gox may be an isolated case, Bitcoin is still spreading. Just this week, Bitcoin vending machines and retail stores sprung up in Hong Kong, Singapore and New York, making the currency a little less virtual.
Now, the American economy lost steam in the fourth quarter last year. At least it didn't do as well as first thought. Revised figures show that the economy grew by 2.4% on the October to December period in 2012. That's sharply less than the 3.2% the Commerce Department first estimated. The downgrade is attributed to lower consumer spending and also lower export levels. Now, that revised figure doesn't seem to be putting much of a dampener on trading over in the United States. This as a reading of consumer confidence in February came in stronger than expected. We're seeing a pretty broad-based advance for all three main indices stateside. As you can see there, the Dow Jones Industrial Average up by around about 0.75% this hour. Now, European shares, they were in negative territory during much of Friday, but they were pushed higher by the strong opening in the United States. They ended the session pretty flat, though. The London FTSE 100 completely flat, basically, whereas the DAX saw some gains. Let's talk you through a few other stories that we're watching for you. Inflation in the Eurozone came in slightly above analyst expectations in February at 0.8%. It's the same as in December and January. The reading is still below the European Central Bank's target inflation rate near 2%, but it is easing fears of deflation, and it is also seen to be easing pressure on the ECB to take action. The ECB will hold its monthly rate-setting meeting next Thursday. Shares in the owner of British Airways and Iberia were down despite the company swinging back into profit. International Airlines Group posted a full-year profit of €122 million for 2013 earlier. It follows a €716 million loss the previous year. IAG was boosted by strong performance from British Airways and low-cost carrier Vueling. Iberia is still in the red, but IAG says the Spanish flag carrier is making progress. And we talked about American growth earlier. Let's turn to India as well. Economic growth in Asia's third largest economy slowed in the fourth quarter to 4.7%. It's the fifth quarter in a row that year-on-year growth was below 5%. And it's also far below the 8% growth that the government of India says the country needs to keep unemployment at bay. That's the business news for now. I'm going to throw it back to you, Francois.
We'd love to have 4.7% growth here in France.
It does sound good, but still, though, that 4.7% growth is still way below what India's seen in the past few years or so. We used to see India near 10% growth, so 4.7% from that perspective isn't all that great.
Of course, all this in an election year. Many thanks, Marcus Carlson. We'll have more business news for you later. Right now, though, it's time for all the day's sports news.
Leon are into the last